Hi, I'm Professor Ray Coca. Welcome back to Principles of Management. Today, I'm going to talk about the history and the different perspectives of management.
Traditional and contemporary management perspectives. Today I'm going to justify the importance of history and theory to management and discuss precursors to modern management theory. I'm going to summarize and evaluate the classical perspective on management, including scientific and administrative management, and note its relevance to contemporary managers. I'm going to summarize and evaluate the behavioral perspective on management, including the Hawthorne studies, the human relations movement, and organizational behavior, and note its relevance to contemporary managers. To continue the learning outcomes for today, I am going to summarize and evaluate the quantitative perspective on management, including management science and operations management, and note its relevance to contemporary managers. I am going to discuss the systems and contingency approaches to management and explain their potential for integrating the other areas of management. And finally, I am going to identify and describe contemporary management issues and challenges. A theory is a conceptual framework for organizing knowledge and providing a blueprint for action. Management theories are grounded in reality. Theories are used to build organizations and guide them toward their goals. Understanding the historical context provides a sense of heritage and helps managers avoid mistakes of others.
Wells Fargo, Disney, Hershey, and Honda, all of them maintain significant archives of their past.
This simple timeline shows a few of the most important management breakthroughs and practices over the last 4,000 years. The Egyptians in 3000 BC used management to build the pyramids. The Roman Empire used it in 1000 BC to build a well-defined organization and communication structure. Some of the early management pioneers included Robert Owen. In the early 1800s, he was one of the first managers to recognize the importance of human resources. He raised working age for children, he reduced hours, and supplied meals. Charles Babbage was in the mid-1800s. He was mathematically focused on efficiency of production. He also believed in division of labor.
Robert Owen believed that every worker deserved respect and dignity.
The classical management perspective consists of two branches, scientific management and administrative management. Scientific management focuses on ways to improve the production of individual workers. Administrative management focuses on managing the total organization. Frederick Taylor saw workers soldiering or deliberately working below the potential. He devised this four-step method to overcome the problem. Step 1. Develop a science for each element of the job to replace old rule of thumb methods. Step 2. Scientifically select employees and then train them to do the job as described in Step 1. Step 3. Supervise employees to make sure they follow the prescribed methods for performing their jobs. Step 4. Continue to plan the work, but use workers to get the work done.
Frederick Taylor did something interesting. Instead of paying workers the same wage, he began to increase the wage of workers that met or exceeded the target level of output. People in the sales field today might see that as something familiar. It does look like commission.
Scientific management had major contributions from Frank and Lillian Gilbreth. They developed numerous techniques and strategies for eliminating inefficiency. Another person was Henry Gantt. He introduced the Gantt chart for scheduling work. It is still used by managers today. There was Harrington Emerson. He was an advocate for specialized management roles. He did a lot of work with the railroad and convinced them that scientific management would save them a lot of money.
Frank and Lillian Gilbreth were very efficient. They applied scientific management to bricklaying techniques. They minimized the movements from 18 to 5, and they increased productivity 200%.
Several people had major contributions to administrative management, including Henry Fayol. He was the first to identify the 4 management functions: planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. There was Lyndall Urwick, who integrated scientific and administrative management. Max Weber studied efficient organizational structure, and Chester Barnard wrote about acceptance of authority.
Have you ever asked why your supervisor is telling you to do certain things? This is what Chester Barnard was writing about. He was writing how workers weigh the legitimacy of the directives from their supervisor and whether they want to, accept them.
Classical management had several contributions. It laid the foundation for management theory. It identified key processes, functions, and skills, and it made management a valid subject of study. But there were some limitations. It's best used in simple, stable organizations. Its universal procedures may not be appropriate in some settings, and employees are not viewed as resources in classical management. A general summary of the classical management perspective is the classical management perspective had 2 primary thrusts. Scientific management focused on employees within organizations and on ways to improve their productivity. Noted pioneers of scientific management were Taylor, Gilbreth, Gantt, and Emerson. Administrative management focused on the total organization and on ways to make it more efficient and effective. Prominent administrative management theorists were Fayol, Urwick, Weber, and Barnard. Some contributions of classical management perspective is that they laid the foundation for later developments in management theory, identified important management processes, functions, and skills that are still recognized today. It focused attention on management as a valid subject of scientific inquiry. There are limitations to classical management perspective. Some limitations are more appropriate for stable, simple organizations than dynamic and complex organizations. Often prescribed universal procedures that are not appropriate in some settings. Even though some writers, such as Gilbreth and Barnard, were concerned with the human element, many viewed employees as tools rather than resources. Behavioral management perspective emphasizes individual attitudes and behaviors and group processes. Hugo Munsterberg applied psychology to the industrial setting, founding the field of industrial psychology. Mary Parker Follett was an early pioneer of this theory.
2 examples of companies that follow the behavioral management perspective are Best Buy, the electronics store, and also Google, the search engine company. It seems to work because Google is often rated one of the best companies to work for.
In behavioral management perspective, Hawthorne studies were conducted. It found an increased productivity in both control and experimental group. Later, they attributed it to heightened employee morale due to extra attention. Later, the studies identified rate busters, who are overproducers, and chiselers, who are underproducers. The conclusion of these Hawthorne studies was that human behavior was much more important in the workplace than previously believed. The human relations movement argued that workers respond primarily to the social context of the workplace. The human relations movement stemmed from the Hawthorne studies. A basic assumption is that a manager's concern for workers will lead to the increased satisfaction and improved performance. The human relations movement has Theory X and Theory Y. Theory X is a pessimistic and negative view of workers consistent with the views of scientific management. Theory Y is a positive view of workers. It represents the assumptions that human relations advocates make. Theory X says people do not like work and try to avoid it. It assumes that managers have to control, direct, coerce, and threaten employees to get them to work toward organizational goals. People prefer to be directed, to avoid responsibility, and to want security. They have little ambition. Theory Y says people do not naturally dislike work. It assumes people are internally motivated to reach objectives to which they are committed. People are committed to goals when they receive personal rewards for reaching objectives. People will seek and accept responsibility under favorable conditions. People have the capacity to be innovative in solving problems. People are bright, but their potential is underutilized. Organizational behavior is a contemporary field focusing on the behavioral perspectives on management. Organizational behavior takes a holistic view of behavior and addresses individual, group, and organization processes.
Human behavior in organization is very complex. There's many variables that contribute to the behavior. It could be psychology, sociology, anthropology, economics, medicine, technology. All of these make it difficult to predict the behavior of people in organizations. Think about this. How does Facebook affect people's behavior in an organization?
In behavioral management today, some contributions include it gave insights to interpersonal processes such as motivation and group dynamics. It focused managerial attention on these processes, and it also viewed employees as resources. There are some limitations to behavioral management. Some limitations include behavior is difficult to predict. Managers are reluctant to adopt concepts, and research ineffectively communicated to managers. A general summary of behavioral management perspective is that it focuses on employee behavior in an organizational context. Stimulated by the birth of industrial psychology, the human relations movement supplanted scientific management as the dominant approach to management in the 1930s and 1940s. Prominent contributors to this movement were Mayo, Maslow, and McGregor. Organizational behavior, the contemporary outgrowth of the behavioral management perspective, draws from an interdisciplinary base and recognizes the complexities of the human behavior in organizational settings. Some contributions of behavioral management perspective is that it provided important insights into motivation, group dynamics, and other interpersonal processes in organizations. It focused managerial attention on these same processes. It challenged the view that employees are tools and furthered the belief that employees are valuable resources. There are some limitations to behavioral management perspective. This included the complexity of individual behavior makes prediction of that behavior difficult. Many behavioral concepts have not yet been put to use because some managers are reluctant to adopt them. Contemporary research findings by behavioral scientists are often not communicated to practicing managers in an understandable form. Quantitative management perspective applies quantitative techniques to management. It focuses on decision making, economic effectiveness, mathematical models, and the use of computers. It incorporates management science, which focuses specifically on the development of mathematical models. It also includes operations management, which is concerned with helping the organization more efficiently produce its products or services.
Quantitative management perspective was used back in World War II. It helped the military operate more efficient and effective. It's also used today in the form of operations management. Many stores use operations management, such as Target. Target uses it for its checkout lanes to make sure enough are open for customer satisfaction.
In quantitative management today, there are some contributions. Sophisticated techniques assist decision making, particularly useful in planning and controlling. It increases awareness of complex processes. There are also some limitations. It cannot fully explain or predict behavior. Mathematical sophistication may come at the expense of other important skills, and models may require unrealistic assumptions. A general summary of quantitative management perspective is that it focuses on applying mathematical models and processes to management situations. Management science deals specifically with the development of mathematical models to aid in decision making and problem solving. Operations management focuses more directly on the application of management science to organizations. Management information systems are developed to provide information to managers. The contributions of quantitative management perspective is that it developed sophisticated quantitative techniques to assist in decision making. Application of models has increased our awareness and understanding of complex organizational processes and situations. It has been very useful in the planning and controlling processes. Some limitations include that it cannot fully explain or predict the behavior of people and organizations. Mathematical sophistication may come at the expense of other important skills. Models may require unrealistic or unfounded assumptions. To integrate perspectives for managers, you can use a systems perspective. A system is an interrelated set of elements functioning as a whole. An open system is one that interacts with its environment. A closed system does not interact with its environment. A subsystem is a system within another system. Synergy is two or more subsystems working together to produce more than the total of what they might produce working alone. Entropy is a normal process leading to system decline.
A good example of synergy is the Walt Disney Company. All the divisions in the Walt Disney Company work together to make each department better. The theme parks, the movies, the merchandise, they all contribute and supplement each other for Disney to become one of the biggest companies in the world.
A universal perspective tries to identify the one best way to do something. It includes the classical, behavioral, and quantitative approaches. The contingency perspective suggests that appropriate managerial behavior in a given situation depends on or is contingent on a wide variety of elements. It believes each organization is unique.
Contingency perspective believes that every company is unique, so the managerial behavior depends on many variables. One company might think that the best way to motivate employees is to give them more money, depending on the performance, like commission pay. But some other companies believe that motivation of their employees is best by giving them leisure time, or status, or social acceptance.
Figure 2.4 is an integrating framework of management perspectives. Managers should include portions of each perspective relevant to their situation and apply them using systems and contingency approaches. Figure 2.5 is a timeline of the emergence of modern management perspectives. Some major impacts of contemporary applied perspective include Theory Z, In Search of Excellence, biographies of successful business leaders, authors such as Peter Senge, Stephen Covey, Tom Peters, Michael Porter, John Kotter, and Gary Hamel. Malcolm Gladwell's books are also included, and even Dilbert cartoons had an impact. Contemporary management challenges include an unpredictable economy limiting growth. Globalization represents many challenges. Ethics and social responsibility in relation to corporate governance. Quality as the basis of competition, increased productivity, and lower costs. The shift toward a service economy. The role and impact of social media also presents challenges. In this video, I established the historical context of management. I discussed the three traditional management perspectives: classical, behavioral, and quantitative. I described the systems and contingency perspectives as approaches to integrate the three traditional perspectives. I also identified contemporary issues and challenges.
Thank you for watching. If you have any questions or concerns, please contact me.